Okay, let's do it.
So whenever you guys are ready, we'll hit the button. But it's not live in Facebook yet.
I'm ready.
I'm good. Let's
Okay,
knock
hitting
this
it.
shit show out.
What?
I said, let's knock this shit show out.
Let's knock this shit show out. Button is pushed. Starting live feed.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the shit show. I am thrilled to be back with my two favorite co-hosts, Amber and Jamie. So I'm Scott, by the way, and today we're going to be talking about how to reframe expectations. And I think we're probably all guilty at some point of having high expectations for ourselves. I mean, just look at Jamie. She sets the bar so high, the rest of us need oxygen just to peek at it. And somehow, even when she trips, she manages to turn it into a masterclass on resilience. She's kind of like Oprah on caffeine. Who am I to say though? Because then there's me. My expectations are so out of control that I actually once felt guilty for not launching a podcast while I was sleeping. I guess you could say I'm kind of the guy who would finish second in a marathon, not that I would ever run one, and still call it a failure, even though I never signed up for the marathon. But to lead this call today, we have Amber, and her idea of high expectations is, promising to hit the gym, then hitting the snooze button 14 times. But she is the only person I know who can turn a missed deadline into a 5-part motivational series on Instagram. So there's that. With that being said, Amber, this is your baby today. Take it away, and let's dive into how we can reframe expectations and move forward with life. Take it away, girl.
Yeah, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm very happy that you're here. Please let us know where are you from, where are you tuning in? I would love to know. I am in Barcelona, Spain. So I'm very happy to be here and excited to share this topic because it's something that I actually wrote about in my blog, my Substack blog, and I will drop the link somewhere there so you can read it whenever you have time, whenever you want to. And before actually starting the call itself, the whole thing, I want to read that first part of the blog post because I think it's going to help us set up the tone, the context of our conversation today. So, okay, here I go. Something about me. I love those unexpected aha moments that sneak in from all kind of places. Books, podcasts, conversations, even random internet corners. One of those moments landed during one of my daily readings and got me thinking about the invisible weight many of us carry. That kind of weight that doesn't show up in a to-do list or the calendars, but still settles quietly into our sense of self. It's the quiet feeling that we are falling short, not doing enough, not being enough, even when we're doing everything we can, and sometimes even more. If you are someone like me who holds yourself to high standards, you probably know this feeling very well. You want to show up fully as a friend, as a partner, sibling, parent, professional, human. You care deeply and you believe in growing, evolving, and becoming better. And in many ways, that's a beautiful thing. Those expectations often reflect our values and our desire to live with intention. But sometimes the same force that drives us forward become the voice that wears us down. A few weeks ago, I read something that reframed this inner conflict in a way that stuck with me. The author described a conversation with a woman who felt she was failing to meet her own expectations. But as he listened to her, it became clear. She was already doing so much. She just wasn't giving herself credit for any of it. After I finished reading about her story, this thought came: damn, that's me. So I wrote this after reading that newsletter, and I was like, oh my God, how many of us really are doing so many things every single day? We are checking a lot of boxes of that to-do list, and not only for work but also for life, for relationships, for personal stuff, and still at the end of the day we don't feel like we actually did enough. And actually this happened to me kind of, I think it was yesterday, no, it was Sunday, 2 days ago. It was my day for cleaning the apartment. It was my cleaning day. I was doing, all of the things, washing, cleaning, organizing stuff. And when I finished, like after 3 to 4 hours, I think that it took me, I was like, oh, but I didn't get to cook the meals that I usually cook for my week, because I try to get ahead of cooking so I'm not that busy during the weekdays. So I try to cook a bit more in the weekends and have. And I caught myself in that. I was like already beating myself for not finishing that last thing that I had on my list for Sunday. I cleaned the whole place, I organized so many things, and then before actually feeling okay with all the things, all the work that I done, I was beating myself because I didn't cook. And then I was like, Amber, what are you doing, girl? You already did so much. It's time to rest, and it's okay to rest. You don't have to continue doing anything more to prove something. Like, to who? Who do you need to prove that you did something? You already did so many things. So it was so funny when I got myself doing that, and I was like, oh my God, this is the topic for this week's conversation. And I was like excited to see, like, I caught myself doing it again. But that's the thing, I was a bit more self-aware of the situation. And yeah, I like patted myself on the back, and I was like, you're doing awesome. After everything, you're doing awesome. So yeah, it was a very fun moment for me. But now into the conversation, I do want to ask this first question to you guys, and I want to start with Scott. Do you ever feel like no matter how much you do, it never feels like enough? And if so, where do you think your high expectations come from? Are they internal, they come from you, or are they shaped by the world and the circumstances around you?
It's a lot of question to unpack. Um, I think I definitely set my expectations. I think for a lot of years, my expectations of myself were not very high at all because I listened to the outside world. Um, that was very much the case. Um, but once I started gaining confidence in things that I could do that I never imagined I could do, I started setting expectations for myself. And I think I think a lot of times they're probably unrealistic. If you just look at maybe in my 9 to 5 job, like the goals that I set for myself. Um, hell, even my bosses find them not attainable, right? Um, I do think that I've learned to balance a little bit of. And I always use this saying, right? You can never shoot the moon if you don't first start aiming for the sky, right? So you're never going to get there if you don't think big. Um, but thinking big and being realistic are two different things, but they can complement each other. They help keep you grounded. They help keep me from crashing when I don't, meet those expectations. Um, that being said, on a day-to-day work flow, I get really like annoyed with myself if I don't get something accomplished. So like even just like if I started 3 projects today and got 3 of them 95% of the way done, but didn't finish one of them, to me that's like that you didn't get anything done today. Because I didn't get anything done, right? And I think Amber, I think we a lot of us go through what you just described, right? You do 14 things to completion today, but then it's like, well, I wanted to get this done. And I'm certainly guilty of burning the candle at both ends of, you know, work all day, get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and then you work all day on various things, put the kids to bed at 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then what? Get back out of bed and go work till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Like it's just ridiculous. Um, sometimes it kind of references back to our grind culture episode that we did, right? It's sometimes we have to do those things, but the have to has to come from, hey, I've got a huge order to fill of maple syrup. I need to get this bottled and done and out the door, not something internally, like a feeling of failure if you don't get it done, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think that answers, that's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, it does. I think that I believe that my expectations, and I'm going to answer the same question before giving the time to Jamie. Many of those actually came from the outside for me because I was always, as a kid, I was always rewarded with all of these, task well done, completed, good grades, and behaving like a good girl, all of these things. So for me, completing things, doing things as they were supposed to on the time that they were supposed to be completed, they were always seen like better from all the people, from my family, friends, and all of this. And I get this, how can I say that, like badge of honor because I was always doing the things ahead of time. For example, I remember some of my teachers at school um, talking about me and my sister doing things or delivering, class projects and homework even before they were due. And then they will publicly say to everyone, like, hey, because this, if they can do it, you can also do it, and da da da. And oh my God, the pressure that I felt since I was a kid, it continued all the way until now, until I realized that, you know what, you don't need to do that all the time. That's not the person that, if you don't have the time or the energy to complete something, but as a kid, I didn't feel that until as an adult, I realized that it is okay. You don't have to always, unless it's something obviously completely important, urgent, or, it depends. The circumstances changes for everything. But I was treating every single task as something that I had to be done and completed perfectly and on time, all the time. And business wise, that was like a hard thing for me too, because yes, I do want to do my job okay, but more than okay, I want to do it on time, like well done, exceeding my own thing. But then I was going back into this mindset that I have as a child, that I will only get recognition if I did that. But it was after growing up and seeing all of this, meeting you guys, working with you, that I realized that, okay, I can actually tell you that I can't have this done by today. I will need more time, and that will be okay. And it's not that I'm failing in everything. It's just that this moment right now is, for me, it's not possible to finish this. But I promise that for tomorrow it's going to be ready. So that's the mindset that I have to start creating on myself. And that's why this blog post came, for me when I wrote it, because I felt it was such an important topic that a lot of people don't realize that we do that. And for me, it came a lot from outside. It didn't come from me. I was not putting all of this. humongous expectations on myself. It was the pressure that I feel from other people around me. So, yeah. How about you, Jamie? How has been your experience with this?
Mm. I kind of waffled in my head about this process and thoughts. I really identify with you as a kid and homework and school. I was so that kid. I was the girl doing the chemistry homework while my friends were playing, thinking, "What are you doing? Why are you doing chemistry?" And they're all hanging out, having a good time, looking at me like I'm crazy. And at the time, it just felt like I don't know where that comes from. Um, because I don't know that I was pushed to necessarily have that mindset. It was my own pushing. And it's like I knew I wanted to get somewhere beyond where my circumstances landed me then. And I knew that the current, like I had to do more than the average is always been my mindset. Um, and I am average. I'm less than average in a lot of ways. So for me to do great in chemistry, I had to work 1,800 times harder to figure it out because, I just ain't that smart sometimes. And people like Scott can just do the test and get an A and go you. Go you. High
For
level of
me,
retaining.
oh my God, I was the worst. I never studied for anything. I'd have homework overdue by a week, being told I couldn't play basketball on the weekend for this, for the high school team because it's Wednesday and none of my assignments were done. And I would literally negotiate my way out of it and do like a week and a half worth of work in 2 days to have it done by Friday and get to play basketball on Saturday. But that probably doesn't surprise any of you that I would procrastinate.
But the irony of that is you probably built more lucrative skills because of it. Like even the
Oh,
negotiation process to get what you wanted, like that is more valuable than me studying chemistry. That's what's so ironic about like schooling and stuff. My view, I was such a scholastic kid. Like I knew what college I was going to in my junior year. I got a scholarship
yeah.
before I ever graduate. Like I was, and Amber, you've worked with me on the other half of my life where I'm not as diligent and I'm not as perfect with my timing. And I think that comes from this radical change. And like you said, like you just see this, the world looks different to me now. Um, I do think though, to flip this conversation on its head, like if you are your word, there's some real power in that, not only personally, but for others. And I think there's a pendulum swinging of I said I was going to do the thing and I did the thing no matter what got in my way. And proving that to yourself and to others is so powerful. And I don't know, I almost think it's a good thing. I think it's not like I think society lets themselves off the hook too much.
Well, I would agree. And there's two things come out of what you just said, the pendulum analogy you used, right? So you keep your word, you get it done, come hell or high water. What does that do? It gives you a sense of self-fulfillment. Like I did this, I accomplished it. But at the same time, when you stack those things up, you earn respect from the people around you. And when you earn that respect, you also earn their grace. So when something does happen and you don't get this done when you said it was going to, because of, you know, circumstances outside of your control, they're like, hey, it's okay. Like, take a breath, get it done. You'll be fine.
And I
So,
also think high achievers tend to overstack. So I think I can do 1,800 pancakes when I really should have just said yes to four. So that
yeah.
skill of saying, like Amber said in the very beginning, what you can say no to. Oh, I don't have time to get to that task, but I will at this time. Just that level of communication is already more integrity. You know, we do feel the pressure of just yes, 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 yes. And you have to untrain yourself to really lean into the no's.
Yeah, and take them as we want grace and respect from others, yes, but also from yourself. If you're always putting everyone else and their stuff over you, over your own needs, that's the other side of this. And maybe that's what I was leaning towards, like this extreme of I have to finish and I have to finish. Doesn't matter if I'm sacrificing, I don't know, my health or something like that. Going very, very to extreme of this thing, but just having like the self awareness and actually saying and being honest with yourself, like, hey, in this moment I really can't do this. That's honesty to you, and then communicating that to the other people who are waiting on you to finish this you know so I think that that's where people fail to do, because they think that if they say no to this task or to whatever activity, they're going to see like, oh, I'm a bad person, or I am not as good as people think that I am, so I'm failing them. But what about you? You're also failing yourself, because you know that there's something else that you have to do for your own good, either personal, emotional, mentally, I don't know. But you rather do like make other people satisfy other people's needs and not yours. And that's the other thing that happens. We put everyone first and then us. And it shouldn't be that way all the time. So I think that reframing, like changing this from yes and no, is like the idea is that we're not failing when we do that. It's just another way to say, hey, I am going to do it, but just not right now, but not for today, maybe just for tomorrow. And doing that, I think it also helps you get feedback on what other people's expectations are from you. Because if they say, hey, I need it for now, but they actually didn't tell you, like, hey, it was like completely for now, or if it was for now and you failed to deliver, and then you have to think about, okay, why did I fail at doing this? But not as a way of judging yourself like I'm the horriblest person ever. No, like not self-judgment. Like, how do you reframe this idea that, okay, you fail, but as something that you can learn from? Okay, now I know that I need to be clearer on the due dates. I need other people to
Yeah.
tell me exactly what are they expecting from me. You know? So how do you think, Jamie, that we can reframe that idea? That it's not a failure, but it's just a form of feedback.
Ooh, I love that. From shifting failure to feedback. And I think just extreme ownership is what's coming to mind for me. Like you just said it. Um, if I don't have enough information, I have to ask them for the information. When do you want this done by? And I think that's it. Like it's just, you know what you need. I know what I need. Scott knows what he needs. And so often there's something that will hold us back from that extra level of communication and leadership to get it. And I don't know why. It feels like is it a politeness? What is that? But I would say most people experience that, at least in some capacity. And when there's people that do that, what was that? I'm trying not to be abstract. When someone says, hey, give me a deadline, no, that won't work for me, but this will. When you see someone act in that way, it's freaking inspiring, you know? Because it's rare. Why is it rare? That's my question.
Yeah, we're not used to do that. And that's an interesting thing. We're not used to actually asking for clarity on the things we need clarity on, you know?
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, it's the irony is it's obviously full of irony, but I do think, Jamie, there's some level of politeness, right? When you're the mindset of when you're asking somebody for something like, hey, Amber, can you do this for me? Right? Um, you feel like, for me at least, sometimes you feel like, well, I can only ask one thing, right? I can't ask if you can do this for me in the next 24 hours. First, I have to find out if she can do it. If she can't do it, then I need to go somewhere else. Um, but I want to go back and touch, so the reframe part of this, right? the idea of failure and it becomes feedback. I think it goes back to Amber, you touched on it, and it basically you have to somehow come to the realization on your own terms. I had to on my own terms that if I don't take care of myself first, I can't help others. And I really like helping others. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. Like that's step number one. And the journey on how to get to that point, I think for everybody's a little bit different. For me, a lot of it was internal stuff, internal stuff that I had to just work through, right? Um, and I think for other people, it could actually be exactly as simple as um, clarifying, being clear on what you need, being clear on what you're asking for. Um, it kind of reminds me, uh, I'll ask both of you this question. What is the definition of communication? Who wants to take it? Who wants to go first?
A two-way exchange of information in a way that's understood by both parties. I don't know if that's correct, but
Amber, what would you call the definition of communication?
Is
I
the
would
act
Google
of
it.
giving and receiving data
Well, and that's
information.
how, yeah, that's how we should think of it. But like if you look up the definition of communication, it tells you the transfer of information from one party to another. It's a terrible definition. A better definition of communication is the transfer of understanding, aka clarity, right? Jamie, I could tell you all kinds of stuff about maple syrup and feel like I have communicated to you, but if you didn't understand it, it didn't mean jack. I did not communicate effectively, right?
But you also have to be willing to listen to the feedback of the recipient of the information. And I think that is a
Yeah.
huge area of opportunity for most leaders is you say something, but did they hear it? And are you actually paying attention enough to see if they did? Would you say
Yeah.
most people
And
do or not?
I think most people bullshit their way through it. Like if I'm just being honest, like my experience with employees, yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you said. Okay. And then they go about their way and well, they didn't understand it. But you don't want to admit that you didn't understand it because then you look like an idiot to your boss. Um, so one of the tools that I've done now is when somebody comes to me with something that's maybe a little technical or they're just asking, how do we do something or why do we do something? Teach it, explain it, have them talk back to you. I mean, and if you're paying attention, like you say, Jamie, you can see the light bulb go off. Like if you're paying attention to the person you're communicating with, especially if it's in person, harder over email, we see it on here. Like you
Mm-hmm.
see the change in facial expressions. You see the difference, right? Um, we assume so much when we communicate. And the old saying, right? What is assuming makes an ass out of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And uh yeah, I think if we stop assuming people understand what we're trying to say and just meet them where they're at and bring them up, it works a lot better.
But sometimes you think you are meeting them where they're at and you don't know that you're missing the mark. Like that's the part that's so ironic about it all.
Yeah,
Um,
because the thing is that when people don't, I might think that people are understanding what I'm saying, but if they say like, yeah, they're always nodding and they're always like, maybe they're, expressions mask that they actually are not understanding, but they make me feel that they understand, that they are getting the message. But then if they don't follow up, If we as leaders don't follow up with the things that we are asking other people to do, or I don't know, accomplish, whatever, if we don't follow up, we actually won't know if they understood the message. So it's I think for me it's like a two-way street, in the fact that yes, I can say something to someone and I can try to like knock them a little bit, like, hey, did you understand? Do you have any questions? That would be like my first, like the first part. And then we have to trust that this person is going to be honest with themselves and with us to tell us, no, I didn't understand. And maybe the way that we can fill that gap between if we actually know if they understood and trying to give them more confidence to tell us that they didn't in the end, is that to do kind of like a follow-up, like, hey, I told you about this the other day. Do you have any questions? Do you want to, I don't know, ask me anything about this? Do you need a bit more clarity? Because, yeah, sometimes we assume that people understand. And because we assume it, we give this energy of, okay, now you go figure it out by yourself or go do it. And we don't give them like the space, I will say that way, the space to actually feel that they can approach us to ask us questions, you know?
Like the
Yeah, I think it happens all the
psychological
time.
safety. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good one. Yeah, so I think this whole topic of expectations, having very high expectations for what we want and not meeting them and feeling like failure because we didn't meet them. My other question is, how can we stay ambitious? How can we can still make like these promises to ourselves that we're going to achieve these levels of, business goals, revenue goals, personal things, without actually becoming our worst critic? Like, okay, I didn't reach them, but instead of seeing like, okay, I didn't reach this, but I was so close, like it was here. And what most people do, they focus on the this line instead of this one, in the sense that the gap between them is not that big, you know? So we just focus on this and say I'm a failure. I should give up. I shouldn't continue doing this because I'm not good enough. Like, how can we can still be ambitious? How can we still try to go into like big goals, but without becoming so self like critical and judgmental? What do you think?
You want to take this one first, Jamie?
I don't know that. So it's like, I think you brought up the gap versus the gain. If there's a book Dan Sullivan wrote called The Gap and the Gain, where most people, like you said, they have a goal, they get this close to the goal, and instead of focusing on this huge amount of accomplishment, they focus on what they did not accomplish.
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer because I focus on the gap. Always have my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
100%. To focus on the gain, we've practiced, and you guys have been part of a lot of meetings with me. I always am like, let's celebrate our wins. But that is not because it's natural for me to celebrate wins. It's because it's unnatural for me to celebrate wins. And so being in community with others, sharing their successes, um, helps me too. And that also, I think it's a round robin ripple effect when you are able to share your wins. And I don't think it's natural for us to do that, at least in the society I've been raised in myself. It's always the gap. So, but I also love the gap because
Mm-hmm.
without
Why?
it, it doesn't like I have an edge. Like I'm never going to be satisfied. I don't see myself ever being satisfied. I see myself being
So,
proud, but never satisfied. And I'm actually happy that I will never be satisfied.
But what
so
satisfaction?
you and I are
What does that mean for you? What does satisfaction mean to you, that you think that you don't need to reach that goal?
I think as soon as I reach a goal, I'm going to set another one. Always.
Hmm.
And I'm
Like no.
not
Mm-hmm.
apologetic for that. I don't want to be the person that sits on the couch and is satisfied ever. It's probably some sort of therapy unpacking that can be done with that. But
No, I think there's a mindset to it. And you and I are similar in what you just described as far as your goal. And like you get focused on the gap and you use it as an edge, right? As motivation, with the exception that I don't give a shit about the gap. So a number of years ago, I asked a dairy farmer what his goals for the following year were. He goes, I don't know, we don't set goals here. I'm like, what do you mean you don't set goals? How can you not set goals? Like, that's what we're told to do. You set a goal, you work toward it, you achieve it. He goes, as soon as you put a cap on what you think you can achieve, now you're number one, you're limiting yourself. Well, that was interesting. And then, so that was probably 12 years ago. I had that conversation with that guy. And over the last 12 years, through practicing it, through talking to other people, there's a few things that I've learned and taken away. So one, I do think goal setting is somewhat bullshit in the way we've always been taught to set goals. Because so that being said, let me back this up a little bit. That being said, like for my 9 to 5, even for Maplewood Suites, I set a goal. And the goal every year is the same. It's to double the business. Okay. Now, how many times in the last 12 years well, I'd say 10 years of doing that strategy have I actually doubled the business? More often than not, actually, about 70% of the time. Right. So there's that 30% gap. But I really don't give a shit about the gap. So why? And what I've learned is you have the mindset. Like setting a goal of doubling the business is not a goal I write on paper. It's a mindset on how I make decisions to get there. I know that realistically, if I grow my business at Maplewood Suites by 50% revenue in 2025, that I will have gotten to a point of profitability, which is you can't start making profits until you're until you're like profitable, right? So I'm not even in 2025, I'm not even worried about making a profit. I'm worried about becoming profitable. Moving into next year, I still want to have the higher goal of doubling the business, but it affects my decision making. If my goal is to we'll probably wrap up the year somewhere around 300,000 in revenue. So if my goal next year is to increase business by 25% or 30%, let's say, and 400,000 in revenue, I'm going to make decisions that are going to get me to 400,000 in revenue. And I may miss the mark on making decisions that could bring me to 700,000 in the same time frame. So going into it, I want to always have the idea that it's like I run it through the doubling test. Like, does this decision have the potential to double my business? And more often
do
than
you
not, that
consistently
philosophy
ask
is
yourself that?
yes, on just about everything, even stupid things.
Because I think that is the key, is being willing to make that a habit in your mindset.
Yeah, like to change your mindset, it's all habit. You have to, I mean, so why do we, Jamie, you said something about no earlier, right? And maybe Amber did. Like, we feel bad if we say no to somebody, right? Well, that's a real thing. And it's a real thing that's hardwired in our brain. Because, yes, you could potentially be agreeing to something that is scary. It's outside of my comfort zone. I can't do that. And so similarly, I had a colleague recently make the comment, and this is applicable, I think, across a lot of different businesses. He was using it in the context of the dairy, like a dairy farm. Um, but he said, I think a lot of folks don't know their ceiling. And again, if you set a hard cap goal, you just set your ceiling, right? And if we actually lived in a world with no ceiling, you can go anywhere. But it's got to be that habitual mindset over and over. That's
But
my
maybe,
experience.
yeah, but maybe it's not like a ceiling of what's the limit. Or this is the only, like, this is it, and there's nothing more. I think that sometimes people, when they don't have a clear, I will say, yeah, goal. I was trying to find another word, but yeah, that a clear goal, at least to be the bare minimum. There's people that set the ceiling and this is the top, but there's people that when they don't even say, I don't know, I want to reach here. This is the amount of things that I want to accomplish this year. If they don't even say the bare minimum, they will never see the progress either. So that's the thing. Yeah, we can focus on the gap only and either be like Jamie, that she's like, okay, this gap is actually fueling me to do more and to find a way to accomplish what I want. Some of other, a bit more like myself, I'm learning more to actually get not completely satisfied, but yeah, to be proud of all the gains that I've been done. All the things that I have done and accomplished. But some people are there like moving and they're doing their thing, but there's not even like the bare minimum. So how do you know? How do you know that you're actually making some progress if you don't have anything tangible to track that progress?
You nailed it. Track. Another habit. Who
Yeah.
do you guys
No,
track?
I do.
what's that, Jamie?
I that if we
I think,
track,
yeah, could we bring a tangible example of a way that you didn't track and you didn't realize your progress and then you learned to track or you started? I would love to, like, what's a real thing that has happened for you guys where you set that
yeah, I
bare
mean,
minimum that you're referencing, Amber?
yeah, I mean, tracking for me, I mean, I've done it in so many different ways and seasons of my life. Either when I was saving for traveling, I had to track every single thing, everything, the income, the expenses, my budget. That was I didn't know that I was doing that until now. That I was like, oh, I actually was in a very good mindset of saving and being very conscious of my bare minimum because I knew the amount of money I needed to make this travel happen. So I needed that. I needed, it was not the limit, it was just the bare minimum. So that's why I call it that way, because I know that if I didn't even have at least this, I was not going to be able to actually do more, if that makes sense. So for me, that was then a few years back. But now, for example, when I started to change my routine, it was because I was tracking my exercise routine. And I was like, okay, I usually, if I don't exercise heavily, like strength training every single day, I don't do that because my body, I mean, it's the rest too. But every single day, I have to move. And when I started to track all of these days that I was like, yes, I'm doing it. I'm moving, I'm doing yoga this day, I'm walking this day, I'm exercising like hard this day, and all of this. That's when I know, like, oh, I actually started to see changes in my energy levels, in my body, how I was feeling, all of this. So if you want to, in my case, I wanted to know how much I was actually doing the thing. I had to track it. And I have to say, Monday, check, Tuesday, check, and maybe not whatever the time, morning, afternoon, night, whatever, but I had to do it. So that was my way of actually saying I'm falling off, because the week that I saw that I didn't move like at all that whole week, I was like, damn girl, something has to change this, because we're not doing okay. We're not even getting the bare minimum of 3 days of movement. So yeah, that's my example.
What do you use to track?
I just have a pen and paper and a book.
You made it a habit to actually write
Yes,
it each
yes,
day.
I have
I
a.
find that stuff so interesting because, like, we don't track brushing our teeth, right? We all just do it.
Yes.
But that's because it's a habit, and there's that transition period of making it from a idea to the habit that I do think tracking somehow helps.
Yeah.
And which is why I appreciate you sharing that example, because I think a lot of people can relate to the health issue. I can for sure, man. If I don't have a goal, like run a marathon, then I don't have something to work towards. And just doing it each day, which has been my goal that I've shared with you guys multiple times, I'm struggling still to
Yeah.
consistently do the bare minimum. So finding that way to create that habit,
I
it's a
mean,
skill.
you
It's
as a
another skill.
visual, yeah, you as a visual learner, Jamie, I think that having this calendar in a way, in a place that you can actually see it, and that you know, like, this is my movement tracker. That's what I did. I actually I bought a notebook just specifically to track all of my workouts. And at the beginning, I was even more specific. I started saying like which type of exercise I did and for how long. Like it was an
Hmm.
arm thing, upper body workout for 25 minutes with dumbbells, without the weights, just body weight. I was so like detailed about it because I wanted to feel like, okay, if I actually want to make this, like the why, it was kind of like making myself
The why.
the why behind I was doing all of this. We know that we have to brush our teeth because we have been told since we were born, pretty much.
And that shit
So
stinks if you don't.
yeah, that's the other thing. So each day, because I was writing why I was doing this and for how long and all that, that's the thing that actually started. And then it was not as detailed. And now I'm actually not that detailed. I'm just like, okay, I just cross on the day that I did exercise or that I didn't, and that's it. But I think that tracking progress, and that's why having at least the bare minimum, that little thing that helps you track the progress that you're making, if you actually want to make progress. That's the other thing. Some people are like, oh, viva la vida, and that's it, and they don't care about anything. That's fine. There's people like that too, and I respect that. But because that's not the life that I want to live. I want to be very healthy and active and, the best version of myself when I'm 117 years old. So that's why I do that. So, yeah. Do you have an example, Jamie?
I think working out's my best example. Um, I've used so many different tracking apps. And for me, following something, some sort of plan, even if it's a plan I created, but it has to have a purpose. And I think that was the
Mhm.
key that you nailed on, is the why. Um, Health is a tough one. It's but it's also one I'm really fascinated by because I think a lot of people struggle with it.
Yeah.
This waffling of I'm consistent, I'm not consistent is so common. And that human nature behavior is the part that I'm interested in. What psychologically lets us stay on track and fall off? Why do we do that to ourselves? I'm consistently inconsistent. That's
Hmm.
interesting to me. And I'm completely aware of it. I can get myself out of it, but it does not sustain. Never has my entire life. So, what
Yeah.
is that solvable, or is that just human nature? Is that a Jamie thing? Like, those kinds of questions are always swirling in my head. I don't have the answer. I think health is probably
Hmm.
my number one. If you don't have your health, what do you have?
Yeah. I treat my health as that's my biggest business personally. It won't give me money in the sense that each time I work out, I don't receive money because I do it, but I know that
There's a
still
return.
there's a return. That's a huge investment that I'm doing because that's the thing that you just said. If we don't have health, What do we have? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've seen so many, and maybe this has something to do because I've seen my grandparents struggle with health issues from my mom's side, from my dad's side, that I know that genetically I'm very prone to so many diseases. So if I say, okay, I'm just going to viva la vida loca, I don't want to end up like them, and even less now that I have so many tools and that I have way more information available to me to know that, okay, if I don't do this, I mean, the consequences are high, are very, very high. So for me, health is like, I really like it, treat it like a business. It has time on my calendar, it has time for me every single day. And back then, when I was actually not treating it like that, I feel how bad it was for me, and not only like physically, but in that translated into I was not having energy to work, no energy to go outside, socialize, and do things. So health is the foundation. And when I actually ingrained that into my mind, like, this is the thing that you have to focus on first, and then the rest is going to follow, better, smoothly. That's when I say, okay, I have to, in my case, I have to exercise, I have to move, I have to do something to make sure that in the future I'm actually going to be able to, still live and enjoy my life, and, blessings, opportunities, and all of that. Because there's really nothing worse than having all of these health scares and seeing people that I love die so young because of health issues. And I mean, yeah, at least in my case, that's like a trauma there, maybe. So I don't know. I don't think that people has to have to go through all of these bad situations with people close to them or with themselves to actually start thinking about their health. But yeah, sometimes that's what it takes. So
What's coming to mind for you, Scott?
yeah, what do you think, Scott?
Well, I guess your question was like, what do you track or how do you track? And um, I think we all, to some degree, throughout our life, throughout school, high school, throughout the first part of your career, like you're intuitively tracking and to some degree like building a memory bank of like the things that work so we can repeat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but intentionally tracking progress is, I have found to be extremely important. Um, and depending on the situation, depends on, right, how, so on my 9 to 5, I track progress quarterly. But at Maplewood Suites, we have now gotten in the habit of tracking progress monthly. Um, and and which looks like just reviewing our profit and loss and our balance sheet once a month. So the monthly P&L, the annualized P&L, and then our balance sheet, and having discussions about it as a team. Um, and so a few things that tracking and analyzing has helped us accomplish is, one, we now understand the state of the company. We understand the state of the business. Same thing can be said, right? If you're just like tracking a health journal like Amber does, right? You understand where you're at, right? And but then also by looking at that stuff every month, you're able to assess, are we headed in a good direction or not? And that's the value of it, really, is to be able to assess. Um,
Yeah, and what
yeah,
I
so
love,
that's what I do. Um,
yeah.
on the personal side, like I don't journal anything, literally anything. Um, but I mean, I'm very aware of like if I'm going to even just like eat any kind of fast food, which I honestly don't like any of it anymore. The closest thing to fast food I'll eat is Chick-fil-A with the kids. But I know going into it, I'm gonna feel like shit for 2, 3 days. And so does that mean we never go to a restaurant and eat? Well, that's almost impossible in a traveling sales position role. Uh, but I think, for some people you have to have that hard line and they, for sure. I think for me though, it's always about, hey, like everything in moderation. Like if you're gonna go out and do this, just understand, like, hey, like not even feel like shit for 2 days, like physically in your stomach, but like when you're eating wrong, like when I eat wrong, I'm not sharp. Um, I don't think as well. I don't process as well. I don't speak as well. Uh, I definitely see that.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I see it most during maple production season when I eat at weird times, whatever's in front of me, work too many hours and drink beer just because you're bored. I don't know. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's interesting because when you say that, for me, it's like why does people, because some people know and they have the thing happens to them too. And I'm going to say this. I'm young. I'm just a few months away from being 30. So many people, yeah, so many people that I, live with or that are in my surroundings, close to me, they are barely like, I don't know, maximum 10 to 15 years older than me. And yeah, then younger. But I've always been drawn to more to people older than me for some reason. But yeah, that's another thing. The thing is that we kind of we all know that these things are not good for us. And still, we continue choosing doing the things that we know they're not good. And then when we feel this crappy in our stomach and, even our emotions because we know that we failed in our healthy eating plan or diet or whatever, and we know that we failed, but we still decide to do the thing again. So that's why I love, in this sense, tracking, because it tells you, yeah, I fell off this day, but because I'm conscious of this, I know that tomorrow I can make better decisions regarding this situation. So sometimes, like I said at the beginning, like when we do something that we feel it is a failure, is a mistake, it is something like, instead of going into I'm such a bad person, I'm a horrible person, why don't we try to change that into a lesson that actually tell us, okay, I fell off today. Like why I was so good the last 5 days in a row and then today I fell off. Like try to bring more self-awareness into that decision. Like why was it different today that I couldn't keep up my word, the promise that I'm eating better, healthier today? Or why I exercise or move during the week, but then this other week I didn't do anything. So I think that tracking, at least at the beginning, while we build this skill and this mindset of I want to change and I want to reach this goal, we actually, like with tracking, we can see, okay, actually I did this. And that's when I go into the details at the beginning. Like I eat this because I felt like this. And that self-awareness, tracking that way at the beginning at least can give you more, information about yourself. when we're doing into a personal type of goal, when we're doing into a business, like, why did I make this decision if I knew that it was actually not going to help? Because I knew it. Sometimes we know that the decision is not the good one, but still we go for it. So I think that tracking and failure, it relates in that way somehow, and just trying to give ourselves grace and also being a bit more patient, because stuff happen, life happens, circumstances, things that we can't control happen, and yeah, that's life. But I mean, we're doing
I'm
so
glad
many
you went there
things.
with the grace, because I, so the one thing I'll maybe push on you a little bit, Amber, is that don't spend all day just in analysis paralysis trying to figure it out, right? At some point, you have to just say, hey, look, like tomorrow's a new day. Today is a new day, right? Um, but don't abuse it that way either, because the minute you start giving yourself grace over and over and over, now you're just making excuses, right? Um, yeah, it's it's so funny how so often in just about everything in life, the answer is somewhere right in the middle.
Mhm. Yeah, like all extremes are bad, all of them, even with grace, like you just said, because there's a point, there's a limit, there's a line when that grace turns into excuses. And when you say, okay, I'm not going to do this because I don't know, the kids did something and I couldn't finish my workout today, as an
Yeah.
example. But then you take that same excuse over and over and over and over and over, and then you fell off. And instead of trying to, like, okay, I'm not going to give, I mean, the kids can do whatever, but I'm going to finish my workout, you're just going to continue following the same path. So, like with everything, that it needs to be not extremes in any way. But I think that that's a good way to start when you actually don't know how to do anything. And you're like, I don't know what to start, I don't know what to do. Like, start tracking the things and start tracking the emotions, but not like you said into analysis paralysis, that you're going to track and say, okay, I have to know every single detail of this thing. No, no, no. It's just like being aware. Okay, something happened, and maybe the thing was anger. The emotion here, because I didn't finish because I was angry at something that happened. Okay, fine. But then you can decide, okay, but I'm going to do the thing, because even if I'm angry, I know that I have to do it.
Yeah.
So, well, before finishing, the last question, and this is just to wrap up today's call, and thank you for following me on this conversation that I think was so fun and insightful for me as well, because I love knowing that not everyone focus on the gain, and that's okay. Focusing on the gap, even like when you do it in a, I don't know,
Healthy
productive
way.
way, healthy way, is actually good too, like Jamie does. So it's not that you have to always focus on the gap. It doesn't you have to focus on the gain all the time. You can try to find your balance in between the two and find what works for you, because everyone thinks different, everyone learns differently, and yeah, that's human nature. That's the thing that is going to be constant all the time, that everybody is, their own universe. So my last question for you guys, and we're wrapping up with this, is what would you say to someone who feels like they're failing in life, in business, with themselves, with other people, but they're actually doing their best?
Well, I'll start by saying that number one, if that's you, so this is what I've had to do. This is how Scott fixed that, and I don't even know if it's fully fixed, but it's how I've decided to work on it. If you are genuinely putting in your best, but you're still feeling like you're failing, um, look in the mirror again. maybe you're not actually failing. Maybe you just haven't yet become the best version of yourself. And if you become a better version of yourself, your best is going to be even bigger, if that makes sense. And so that's how I think gotten out of that mindset of like I'm doing everything I can, but it's not enough. It's not working. Um I do think there's times too though where you have a situation like you just described in this question. What would you say to someone who feels like they're failing, but they're actually doing their best? So many times we end up in the wrong spot. If you're working for a company, you're in a position. Sometimes it feels like the right position, but it's not. And what I mean by that is we don't always get to end up doing what actually brings us joy um, internally enough. And so I'm making a reference to working genius, right? And so for me, when I was in a role that was not utilizing my working genius, I was really doing my best. And then I would sharpen my skills and I'd do my best. And I still felt like I wasn't getting, the results that I should. Um, but I was in the wrong seat, So um and then my other piece of advice would be like failure. What is failure really? Like who the hell decides if it's a failure or not? So if it's an outside source that says you're failing, tell them to piss off. Right? But if it's internally, just realize like you have the ability to change your own status quo. Right? We all have the ability, the internet is full of resources. We all have the ability to be better. Um, yeah, I think failure is such a dangerous word that people get stuck in their head. Um, Jamie, you and I talked about this. I don't know, or maybe I referenced it on a different shit show, but right. Was it Thomas Edison with the light bulb? Right? He didn't fail 100 different times making the first light bulb that worked. He learned how to make the wrong one 99 times or 100 times. Right? Like it's failure is such a bogus word.
Yeah. It becomes a different thing when we think of it as lessons. It was a lesson. This is how I am not going to achieve the goal. Instead of I just failed and I and the worst person ever. I learned that this is not the path that I should be walking on.
Yeah, I was engaged to be married when I was 22 years old, and we did not end up getting married. We broke up. You could call that a failure of the relationship. But looking back on it, I learned more out of that relationship than probably anything else.
Hmm.
Like, I'm really glad I had that experience, actually.
How about you, Jamie?
I think failure is a prerequisite. It's a requirement. If you expect to do something of value in any way, if you have to embrace the failure. If you like define, I guess, what'd you say? What was the original question? If you are doing your best, can you repeat it?
What would you say to someone who feels like they are failing but is actually doing their best?
Okay, I have two thoughts. Number one, take an inventory.
Mm-hmm.
What are you actually doing? Write it down is it really your best?
Yeah.
So if I was playing basketball to be a pro and I did the inventory, I'm never going to be a pro. I mean, physically, that is just not going to happen for me. I know that. No matter how, if I work my ass off, I still know that's not going to happen. So if that's the case, if I'm really doing my best and I took the inventory to confirm that, pick a different goal. Like, pick a different goal. Be realistic. Sometimes, yeah, okay. If you are trying to do, if you're like, I looking for that analogy of spinning your wheels, but just be realistic with yourself about some stuff. Some people are not cut out to do certain things, and that's okay. If you've tried to build a business for 10 years and it's failed for 10 years, freaking go get a job. Just do it. It's fine. Move on. That being said, if you have not achieved your goal and you can feel like a failure, you're probably not giving your best.
Yeah,
Start looking in the mirror.
yeah,
So
that's actually a
it all
good
comes
one.
down to self-awareness, I think. But yeah, sometimes it is the internal rewriting of the feeling, though. You mentioned feeling like a failure. And if you sit in that feeling of failure, you're probably not giving your best because you can't when you feel down. You need to raise that vibration and that energy level, and embrace that person you are striving to be. That's the only way you're going to get there. People feed that energy. So, yeah, take an inventory would be my advice.
Jamie, you're like 6'8". Like you could totally be in the WNBA.
You think? I'd crush it, wouldn't I?
So yeah, that's proof. That's proof that you can do it.
How about you, Amber?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me get this switch this light on because I'm barely being seen now. People can't even see me. Yeah, well, and I think that you kind of nailed it with that. You have to take inventory of what you're doing and actually see, okay, if this actually working. And if it's not working, do I need to change something or do I need to just get rid of it? That's number one thing that I will say. And when you do this inventory, like be very honest on, okay, I am nailed this skill. I'm very good at it, but it doesn't bring me joy. So if something that you do it like very good, you're excel at it, but it doesn't bring you joy, it's not actually something that makes you happy and fills your cup, you will still feel like a failure somehow because whatever you're doing, you will feel that you're wasting your time because you don't feel any fulfillment from it. So like Scott said, there are some things that we're doing because we're good at them, but they're actually not the things that we should be doing. So you can be in a very great place, I would say financially, and high reputation because professionally you're excellent at it. But is that actually fulfilling you? Is that actually making you feel that you are going somewhere? Is that actually making you like feel the purpose of your life? If you know what it is, actually, because some people, they don't know their own purpose, they don't know their why. So you have to really see what are the things that help make you feel good. And if it doesn't make you feel good, then maybe it's time to reassess, reevaluate the things that are happening and see, okay, do I have to make a change? Do I have to make a move? Do I have to get rid of this? Whatever that is a job, a relationship, even a task that you're given, and you say, okay, maybe this is not the right thing for me. Maybe this is actually not the thing that I should be doing. So sometimes we give and give and give and give a little more, thinking that by doing that, we are going to, get this sense of, I don't know, completeness. And yes, this is the thing. But actually, sometimes we just have to give some things up and say, this is not for me. So I'm just wasting my time doing something that is not fulfilling. It's not actually making me move forward on the things that I want to achieve. So sometimes it's not that we are failing, it's that we are going in the wrong direction. So you have to assess first. Are you actually going in the wrong direction with the things that you're doing? And if not, it's time to make a change. It's time to move the boat around. Start, like, if you have a captain on your boat and you're not the own captain, you have to find a way to get rid of that, because your life is yours and you should be able to decide where you want to go and how you want to, you know, go there, achieve your goal or the bare minimum or whatever that you want. So, yeah, that would be my advice. And the other one, like Jamie said, thinking about wins and the things that we did actually right is not something that we are wired to do naturally. It's not something that come up like, yes, I just finished this and I'm like, oh, I created this inventory in my mind that I actually did this. No, we think, oh, I still have to do this other task. So another advice I would say I would give people is that try to make it a habit to actually think at least of one very good thing that you accomplished that made you feel good. That you say, oh my God, I finished this book and oof, I felt so happy after I read it. It may be whatever, but just actually being conscious of that when you feel good finishing something and you say, yes, this day was not wasted because I did something that brought me joy and that moved the needle forward somehow. So, yeah, that will be my final piece of advice there. And if any of you have anything else to say before we finish this call,
Thank you for an
Well, you
awesome
mentioned,
discussion.
yeah, I enjoyed this topic, Amber. And you mentioned earlier that you're approaching the dirty 30. And so, based on what you just said, like, even if it's something small, celebrate it. It might not happen to you at 30, but at some point, Amber, you're just going to be grateful that you got your socks on your feet this morning without throwing your back out. Hey, that could be a win.
hey, that could be a win. I actually got to pick up the socks from the floor. They fell off.
Awesome. Good
Well,
stuff, Amber.
yeah, no, thank you for being willing to be here with me and to spend this time with me. And yeah, for, allowing me to do all of these talks that are hopefully relatable to other people, and I hope that they help them
Mhm.
somehow. And yeah, if you want to read my whole piece of my blog, I will link it here in the description or something somewhere. I'll let you know that you can read it. And I would love for you to let us know how this topic landed for you. And if you have any questions, anything that you need, more clarification or more tips or something about whatever that we talk about, just let us know. And I think we will see you in the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
Two
Next two
weeks.
weeks. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for being here, everybody.
Okay. See you guys
Bye.
later.
Thank you.
Bye.